Joining me now is Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Russell, what's on the agenda for the French President's visit to the UK?
Well, hello again, Caro. I think it's really exciting because a lot of people are saying that this is possibly a precursor to the US state visit. Of course, Donald Trump coming to the UK in September. But there is a lot of excitement, both at Downing Street and at the Palace, and indeed our French counterparts about this state visit, because it comes at, of course, a crucial time throughout Europe and the Middle East. So I'm sure that will be on the agenda for King Charles and President Macron. But as you said, there's a lot to look forward to in terms of the spectacle that we'll see. There'll be an inspection of the Guard of Honour. We're at Windsor Castle this time, of course, because of the resurfacing of Buckingham Palace is reaching its final stages, just a couple of years to go in this huge sort of $500 million project that's being undertaken over 10 years. So we will see a state banquet, we will see a carriage ride through the streets of Windsor. The Prince and Princess of Wales are scheduled to be there. We hope that Catherine can make that, of course. She's had a bit of a stop-start period towards the beginning of this year. But I think the King and Queen will definitely hope that there's a good reception, a few crowds on the street, certainly for President Macron and the First Lady Bridget as well.
Now, that's obviously next week, but this week the King and Queen have been up in Scotland. Charles in particular, he looks like he's having the time of his life. What's this trip involved?
Well, every year the royals, certainly the King and Queen, go to Scotland, and it's known as Scotland Week, Holyrood Week. It's a chance to sort of shine a spotlight on the communities in Scotland. Of course, you know, Scotland has a huge affiliation with the royal family, part of affection for the late Queen. Of course, it's where she passed away in 2022. And Charles was there. He's sort of meeting locals, inviting them to Holyrood House as well. And, you know, sampling some whiskey. We saw him out and about. There's some garden parties that he attended as well. So you know, this part of the calendar is very, very important. There was some great weather up there as well this week. So all encompassing, it's a really important part for the royal family.
We understand as part of that trip, the King and Queen paid tribute to the late Queen. What was that about?
Yes, they did indeed. Of course, St Giles was the cathedral where the late Queen was laid to rest before her journey down to London. And there was a commemorative stone laid at the cathedral. Of course, that was where 30,000 people queued up in the rain over 24 hours a day to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth II after she passed away at Balmoral. And the King and Queen, you know, had that sort of moment of solemnness, I think. But it was, again, sort of making sure that connection to the local community was unending. And certainly, I think the local community will really, really appreciate that in Scotland.
On other things, and still in news this week, but King Charles is apparently giving up the royal train. And obviously, we remember when the Queen gave up the royal yacht Britannia. What's the reasoning behind this?
Well, of course, I mean, those pictures and images went around the world, and they continue to be shown now about the sort of the emotion that she showed at the time. But this is really down to finances. I mean, the royal train has been going in some guise or another since the 70s and 80s, the current 9 carriages that are pulled by 2 steam locomotives. It was, of course, the late Queen's favourite mode of transport. It allowed her to sort of travel up and down the country. But in the last few years, it really hasn't been used at all. There's only a couple of times last year I was doing the royal finances at Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace, going through the finer details of the figures, how much the royal family cost. And it was only taken out twice last year. And I think that working it out, it probably cost about $120,000 just to take it out of the station for those 2 times. It costs about $2 to $3 million just to keep it going, just to keep it housed. You know, it's difficult to find parts for it, such as its age. And when the King is looking at royal finances, he's got to try and sort of balance the books, look at where the money is being spent. And the royal train just certainly isn't financially viable at the moment. So it is going to go. It's going to be consigned to history. Hopefully it'll be in a museum, may get split up. So there'll be a lot of transport museums in the UK and possibly throughout the world who will fancy a piece of that royal history. But I think when you're spending so much money on Buckingham Palace and beyond, it's probably the right decision.